how AI is impacting the e-commerce, both for a customer as well as for a brand.
I can see that AI is taking both from a category perspective and a brand or a seller perspective as well. Category is taken up or probably being implemented in every section. Snapdeal was the only channel out of the three channels marketplace driven. We were not inventory led. We never used to buy inventory. We did not used to own the inventory. Again, ups and downs. There were difficulties, and they were of course due to obviously the investors and there's so many things that were happening across the board.
Since you have seen this journey of e-commerce evolution from 2014 to now we are at 2016, like if I ask you what is Amazon at its core and what is Flipkart at its core?
Having seen that journey, I think Amazon has always come across as a platform which has been obsessed with its leadership principles. Flipkart at its core has been one of the most aggressive platforms out there.
How different is the customers from Amazon customer to a Flipkart customer in your experience?
I think this has been a debate for like the longest period of time, to be honest. I recently had the opportunity to discuss with a few of my colleagues who are there in the quick commerce side of things as well. Categories like smartphones will take time to kind of mature in quick commerce. Of course, e-commerce industry in general has seen a lot of ups and downs throughout the year. I think unfortunately we had to go through the COVID situation, but it did do wonders for the e-commerce industry, where it kind of showcased the prowess and the power of this particular industry and the convenience that it can offer to the customers.
Most people think winning e-commerce is easy. Just list it, run ads and scale it up. Actually, it is not. Some brands win big on Amazon while others dominate on Flipkart. Today, we have somebody who has seen the evolution of e-commerce from 2015 times, and he has got the front row to witness what happened in the Indian e-commerce industry. Welcome, Vedanta.
Hi, Vineeth. Thank
to
you
the
for having
first
me.
episode of Backbone HQ.
It's a privilege. Thank you for having me.
Just to introduce Vedanta, he started his journey with Snapdeal and has worked with brands like Samsung, Philips, and now he's leading the OnePlus mobile phones on e-commerce. So over to you, Vedanta. So can you take us through your personal journey and how you landed up in e-commerce?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, Vineeth. So I think like most of the young folks in my early years, in fact, I was quite confused on kind of where my career trajectory is going and exactly what to do in life. So I hail from the city of Calcutta, and in Calcutta there's a culture of probably everybody going into the finance field. So that's probably where my journey started. I was a hardcore, like a pure out and out finance guy, pursuing international CFA, chartered accountancy, and financial risk management. And my journey started with working in HSBC for a couple of years, and then probably I realized that finance was not really my calling. And as it turned out, I had a mutual friend who was working at Snapdeal, who also kind of knew about my interest in the tech field, and which is what at that point of time, I think towards the end of 2014, where he suggested that probably I should just try to switch careers and try out something different. And I took a leap of faith, to be honest, and was hired as a account manager at Snapdeal, which was one of the, I think at that point of time, it's one of the biggest marketplaces.
Which year was it?
This was at the end of 2014.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean the core work obviously started in 2015 because towards, if I'm not wrong, it was around September 2014.
Yeah.
So that's when I took the leap of faith and joined as an account manager at Snapdeal, which was touted to be one of the biggest marketplace e-commerce channels at that point of time in the market. Quite an eventful ride. The Snapdeal journey was quite fruitful. Spent around 3 years managing multiple categories like audio, cameras, and the video category as well. In this journey, probably it kind of set the stage for me and kind of gave me that direction of what to do in life. And rest is probably history, to be honest. And then from the e-commerce side, I ended up going to or managing various categories across different brands like Philips, OnePlus, Samsung, and dwelled into out and out consumer electronics. I've worked in various categories like audio, televisions, smartphones, monitors. I mean, you name it, pretty much consumer electronics, more
Which
or
one is the
less.
most interesting one for you?
I mean, all of them are interesting, to be honest. I think every category has its own bright side and dark sides. To be honest, if you it just kind of gives you a perspective on how different categories really function, because every category has its challenges and has its advantages as well. So I would not be biased towards any category. I mean, it's consumer electronics in general is it's a very tough one to drive. I've had a small stint at Capillary also, where I was working as an e-commerce consultant, where I did um, do some e-commerce consulting for the B2B omni-channel for fashion brands like Fossil,
Okay.
Biba and Jiva Ayurveda, and FMCG brands as well. So I've seen a bit of that side of the industry as well. Obviously, it's a stark difference between electronics and fashion. But yeah, I mean, everything has been kind of adding up to the professional that I am today. And yeah, it's been a fairly interesting ride
Yeah,
in the last 12 years. Yeah.
let's go back to the Snapdeal days.
Yeah.
So I still remember in 2015 times like Snapdeal, Shopclues, Myntra, all of them were independent marketplaces and were thriving actually. And Snapdeal was one of the major player at that point of time.
Yes.
There were like quite things happened like Shopclues being shut down, or
Yeah.
then Myntra was acquired by Flipkart.
Yeah.
Uh, I think there was a brief discussion about Snapdeal and Flipkart being merger or something. That's what I remember, if I'm not
There
wrong.
was.
So what do you think? Like how Amazon and Flipkart had taken this leap in the e-commerce and being the two giants in the marketplaces?
I think
Like
2014-15 was all about acquiring market share. It was more of like burning and deep discounting than what e-commerce is today, or what it has turned out to be today. If I compare 2000 maybe 15 16 to 2025 right now, what used to be a very discount led, high burn, high intensity, high competitive market, it has changed into more being driven by AI, customization, targeting, specifically kind of understanding the consumer and catching the interest of the consumer. Again, it's still highly competitive, but it also comes with a tinge of profitability, because any company cannot, or any industry cannot keep on working by burning a lot of money.
so do you think
So
it is the capital that made the difference or the execution?
so now, if I look at the execution piece, I think Snapdeal was the only channel out of the three channels which was a purely marketplace, which was marketplace driven. We were not inventory led. We never used to buy inventory. We did not have our, we did not used to own the inventory that the sellers used to. So we used to keep the inventory on behalf of sellers. This was inherently a more challenging uh, construct if I compare it to the Flipkarts or the Amazon of the world. Now, Amazon, if I compare, Amazon was also started up as a startup in India, but nonetheless, they had a vast learning from the US side as well. It was a more mature company in the e-commerce segment. Uh, so Amazon has its own playbook, and they take their own time to kind of develop things and strategize things. They take their time, but when they execute with perfection. Flipkart, again, capital intensive and inventory led, obviously gave them the advantage of always being in stock. Snapdeal, since everything was through marketplace, it used to be a little more dynamic and more probably more resource intensive. It used to be a big cam team kind of handling a vast array of sellers. Yeah.
So, what I also feel at that point of time is like since the inventory is not controlled by directly controlled by Snapdeal or Shopclues at that point of time, there were always a chance of fraudulent activities
Yes.
or like fake products being delivered, all those stuff. So, I think that is where Amazon and Flipkart made some difference, at least in terms of.
There were Bravo brand rules implemented in Snapdeal as well.
Okay.
Um, it was actually quite organized, and we did take a lot of measures to ensure that we are not allowing those duplicate listings happening. In our experience, at least in those days and those years, those duplicate listings were happening across channels. But every marketplace had its own rules, policies in place. Every marketplace ended up making some mistakes and learning from those mistakes and implementing very strict rules. And Snapdeal was one of them. We did have a regular cleanup being done on the platform and ensuring that every seller listing on the platform had a authentic or brand authenticated certificate, which was again cross-checked with the brand. So in a lot of cases, yes, of course, if you are like expanding or growing, it becomes quite challenging to kind of maintain the sanctity across all categories and all brands. But at least the ones or the top heavy categories like consumer electronics or smartphones, these rules were quite strict, and there were obviously few concentrated brands where it used to be sacrosanct that listings of duplicate products would never be allowed. But challenges were there across channels. But I think still, considering the model in which Snapdeal was working, they still did a phenomenal job in ensuring that they were able to execute it at a scale
Okay.
which probably other marketplaces could not do it at that point of time.
Understood.
So, but yeah, I mean, again, ups and downs. There were difficulties, and they were of course um, due to obviously the investors and the so many things that were happening across the board. The company did went go through a tough phase in between where profitability was becoming paramount. And obviously, in a startup kind of an environment, we were kind of pivoting probably every 4 or 5 months to figure out how do we make things better. Again, investor pressures were there, which kind of entail you or curtail you to kind of follow or do something which is extremely important to ensure that things remain stable. And I think in that journey, somewhere when the merger was supposed to happen, probably it did not happen. Maybe the investors were not happy with the valuation, but nonetheless, the company still survives. And probably it is not exactly what it used to be earlier, but it is something different. And it is something which probably even the founders are focusing on, kind of only focusing on certain aspects or certain areas like maybe tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and certain categories which help them to make some profits, which in itself is quite sustainable, I believe, which is why the company still survives. And
Okay.
the ideologies and the principles kind of change. So, of course, what it touted to be earlier, what it is right now is something very different. But yeah, it has its own audience segment, audience base, and it's still doing.
Like, if I ask you what is Amazon at its core and what is Flipkart at its core, like, how do you say it?
So, I mean, having seen that journey, I think to start with, Amazon has always come across as a platform which has been obsessed with its leadership principles.
Okay.
Number one being customer obsession. And I think that has come throughout in these so many years, 10 to 15 years. Not that Flipkart isn't, but at its core, I think Amazon has always been like that. And they have always kind of, ensured that the experience at the platform should not be, because that's the primary way in which probably you can gain the confidence of a customer, especially a premium customer also. Which is why probably Amazon even till date would be having its niche audience segments which will be extremely loyal towards the platform. Having said that, Flipkart at its core has been one of the most aggressive platforms out there in the market, because like I said earlier, maybe 10 years back or maybe 8-9 years back, it was majorly discount led, and Flipkart did a phenomenal job in cracking those deals and ensuring across categories to give the best deals possible. Maybe at that point of time, maybe customer obsession was not maybe the again this is a perception from as an outsider, as a customer, as a person who's been licensing. Maybe it would not have been the paramount principle at that point of time, but it was like majorly to give the best deal possible out there. That's what at its core Flipkart has been. But over the years, I think both platforms have learned from each other, and they have been kind of, uh, I would not say synergizing, but I kind of say that they're taking learnings from their each other's playbooks, and they have evolved into being very similar. Like Flipkart has now, of course, Flipkart is also focusing a lot on customer, as well as remaining true to its core values of giving the best deal out there. And Amazon has obviously at its core the customer obsession principle being there, with a lot of aggressive deals and aggression in many categories across, to ensure that their market share is also very
So
high.
we can say that like Amazon is more like intent driven, maybe, or Flipkart is like more discovery or deal driven kind of.
Initially, yes, but maybe not. I think both the platforms are quite mature, and they're very close to each other. Even still,
Okay.
I think both the platforms are right up there, and it's a duopoly right now. So there is no other third
Correct.
company who can really fight with these behemoths. Both of them are big in their own ways, and I think both of them have learned from each other and have ensured that uh, they cover up or kind of gain speed where they did not have that, or gain ground where they were lacking behind.
So what? So I'll give you my feeling what I have experienced so far.
Yeah.
So Amazon. So for me, Amazon is more like process driven or like what you say. There's a set rules for everything and anything. Whereas Flipkart, the people working over there, they can take their own decisions. Maybe like they work kind of as startup owners where the decisions are fast.
But that's kind of inbuilt in their DNA as well. And I think that's true with any global company. Let's say, having worked in Snapdeal versus OnePlus, or versus the Philips, which was a smaller, or TPV Technologies, which had the license of audio and video for Philips India. A Samsung versus, let's say, a TPV. Just giving you an example. Um, a Samsung would, or an Amazon would definitely have way more processes, policies, principles in place, being the large behemoths or the conglomerates that they are. I think Flipkart is also there, but Flipkart investments came in from Walmart, but Flipkart remains true to its value. It's there. It started as a startup in the country, and the vibe is still of a startup, or the culture is still like a startup. It's still a startup environment, wherein probably the stakeholders have little more control in their hands, and maybe uh, processes and policies do not override, or maybe are not as lengthy as what probably an Amazon or Samsung would be having. I think
And
that's true with all big organizations.
how different is the customers from Amazon customer to a Flipkart customer in your
I
experience?
think okay, this has been a debate for like the longest period of time, to be honest. I think in general, if you look at the Indian audience, they're all deal hunters. Everybody wants the best pricing. But like I mentioned earlier, Amazon does have its own niche set of customer base, or a premium customer base, which is loyal to the platform. So there could be a lot of general purchases that end up happening, where for some people, Amazon might be the just a natural choice, right? They would just organically come there and buy. But having said that, Flipkart has kind of built that customer base by giving so many deals across categories. Let's say in some categories, and slowly and steadily they have also kind of developed that base. But we know that uh, the Indian audience is easily swayed by pricing. So when it comes to a high ticket value item or a high ASP item, I'm sure any Indian customer would be scouting 3 different or 4 different channels to find the best deal. Now, both of these companies are also dwelling into quick commerce segments, trying to drive different avenues and trying to compete with different players in the market, to ensure that they build the customer base is built. The every segment's customer base is built, not only when you're looking at top line, but also, let's say, looking at general goods, FMCG, etc., etc. So both the companies are kind of now uh, running are in the race for winning the quick commerce segment as well,
So
which is
where do you think the premium products would sell more? Like,
in my experience, actually, um Okay, so when I talk about premium, again, this is very subjective because having worked in multiple categories, in general, if you look at any generic electronic category, usually the premium models end up selling more on Amazon. Having said that, if you look at some specific categories, maybe televisions or maybe smartphones or a few other categories where probably Flipkart gets a better deal, that's where Flipkart kind of ends up shining a lot. So in today's day and age, also like it's a very simple or a very open example that we have, wherein let's say a Samsung S23 Ultra or an S24 Ultra deal goes. That's there been that Samsung focuses that deal on Amazon
Okay.
vis-a-vis to let's say an iPhone number series deal or a Pro series deal, very focused on Flipkart. So and both of them do really phenomenal volumes, equally expensive items, equally expensive products being sold across both the channels. So it's not like one channel has a advantage over the other. I think it all ends up boiling down to what deal is available. Like I mentioned earlier, also in the higher ASP segment, a customer would probably not directly go to one channel and end up buying the product. The customer would not only look at the online channels but also offline channels to kind of figure out the best deal possible and buy it from there. Uh, in general, if you look at other categories, generic categories, high SP categories, I feel that probably Amazon might have a slight advantage. But again, when it comes to higher ASP, people or Indian audience or any customer would definitely try to find the best deal because it ends up being a very big difference, right, in price, and you end up saving a lot of money. So both channels have been fairly good at their game, to be honest.
So, since you brought up the QCOM discussion into it,
Yeah.
and you've been into the smartphone category right now, how is it evolving? Like for FMCG and other products, I can understand how big QCOM can be. Recently, I've been studying like even luggages are getting sold in good numbers in
quick
QCOM.
commerce, yeah.
How is it for phones? I've never spoken to anybody
I think
about
smartphones,
phones.
to be honest, I recently had the opportunity to discuss with a few of my colleagues who are there in the quick commerce side of things as well. I think categories like smartphones will take time to kind of, mature in quick commerce.
Okay.
It's going to take time. It's not going to be like, I mean, how many customers are out there who probably would want to have an S20 or an Ultra series phone or a flagship level phone in few minutes.
Few minutes, yeah.
It's a thought out process. I think probably a customer journey. The customer kind of looks at multiple devices. They look at reviews, ratings, a lot of things. Understand, go to YouTube, follow KOLs, understand what the product is all about, and then probably builds a conscious decision. Having said that, good to have. We will see probably years down the line exactly how this category shapes up in the quick commerce.
Okay.
But in the quick commerce segment, I think FMCG is the biggest one and probably will remain the biggest one for the foreseeable future. Electronics, probably more of impulse buy categories like maybe IoT categories like earphones or true wireless or power banks, like where you don't really need to put a lot of brains and you just need something immediately. Probably, let's say you're planning a trip, you need some essential items which you probably don't have. These kind of impulse buy categories in electronic segments would definitely shape up really well. Maybe smartphones and washing machines and ACs and televisions and fridge, which probably a few of the quick commerce companies have tried doing it.
Okay.
Will take some
Any
time.
idea how many numbers would be doing in quick commerce for smartphones? Like
Honestly, not privy to the numbers,
okay.
but we do see a lot of posts coming in by a lot of founders across the board. I think for now, I think it feels like more like a marketing, like it's a very it's a great marketing call out. That okay, let's say an XYZ company or a ABC quick commerce company ends up selling so many iPhones on the first day, in the first minute or the first 5 minutes. So those kind of superlative callouts end up coming out across social media.
So it ends up being only a marketing call out or marketing gimmick, I would say.
I mean, of course, I mean, to start off with, that number in itself is a feat for a quick commerce company, showcasing or setting the stage out there in the market to kind of showcase that there is a need for this, right? But is it scalable, or how long is it going to go, or probably is it here to stay? Is it something that can be really, really scaled up? And because with rising incomes, I'm sure there will be the audience base would increase for these kind of necessities in the market. But like I mentioned, I believe that it will take some time for it to mature. It's not going to happen overnight. Like e-commerce, of course, e-commerce industry in general has seen a lot of ups and downs throughout the year. And I think, unfortunately, we had to go through the COVID situation, but it did do wonders for the e-commerce industry, where it kind of showcased the prowess and the power of this particular industry and the convenience that it can offer to the customers, which kind of set a base for the industry itself. Of course, there are upsides and downsides, but for the quick commerce piece specifically, I believe higher ASP items or high ticket value items will take some time to mature.
Understood.
It's not going to be a very large, or maybe it might not end up being a very large or very scalable category, because we've seen these even for large appliances. We've seen certain companies trying to start projects, but it ended up getting halted later on after the company realized that it's a very, very huge burn kind of situation where you might not be able to make that money.
Understood. So now, being into this e-commerce and seen brands like Boat coming up or growing rapidly on the e-commerce front, always I've been thinking, like, there are a lot of brands, D2C brands, owners, founders starting with e-commerce, but not all of them are able to scale it up or scale profitably, I would say. Like, that is the more correct word, I would say. Like, there are a lot of brands doing well, but not profitable. I don't know.
Correct.
So, since you have seen Boat from very up close, like from the start of Boat days, like, what did they do? Or I'm just taking the example of Boat, but in a general, why few brands are becoming very, very successful in e-commerce while others are not? Like, what makes the difference for those kind of?
I think the founders of Boat, Bolt Audio, Noise, I guess all of these brands that are D2C brands that have done really, really well in e-commerce segment, their idea was extremely clear to how to focus and scale up. In fact, it's not only these brands, but there have been large brands like in smartphone segments like Xiaomi or a OnePlus for that matter, who've always been, or an iQOO right now, who've always been digital first brands. The key to growth is not only kind of choosing digital first. Of course, it saves you on a lot of cost, because cost of doing business in an online channel is way lesser than a brick and mortar business.
Okay.
But the key to success is not only choosing a channel and then going ahead with it. I think what's common in all of these brands is that standalone, they have decided on first establishing themselves as a brand, and invested money in amplifying themselves to showcase themselves as a brand. I think each one has chosen its own way of doing it. Probably Xiaomi or OnePlus started off with the invite system only, which kind of gave the sense to the audience that, okay, this is something special, and they designed their products in such a way. I think both of the brands focused online. Since the cost of doing business was less, there was economies of scale with them as well, and they could probably give a better price to spec ratio to the customer, and they captured the interest of those niche audience. Probably Boat, which kind of dwells into Boat or a Bolt Audio, which dwells into more of like an impulse buy category. For the first time ever, ended up kind of offering reliable products, fairly decent quality products at a really, really good price. Similar strategy. Maybe the maybe the branding initially would have not, well, the branding, the cost of kind of building the brand and building that perception would have not been as high as, let's say, a Xiaomi or a OnePlus, obviously, because categories are there. And um, at the at an advantage, also at an advantage of being an impulse buy category, so obviously a decent quality product being offered at a fairly aggressive price worked for them. And then obviously they build their brand as well. I still remember, um, I think Bolt Audio, the founder, was a colleague of mine in Snapdeal. Bolt, again, since when we were in Snapdeal, I was handling audio. Used to work with Aman and Samir as well. Uh, so very, very clear thinking, um, ensuring that, they used to handpick products, which products to kind of, introduce in the market, discuss with the category, look at the data, what's really working, what kind of form factors are working at that point in time. Wired earphones with the mic, without the mic, Bluetooth headphones, how much bass should be there.
Okay.
If we are looking at maybe, let's say, noise cancelling, how much decibel noise cancelling should be. So they used to work really close with these digital companies like Amazon, Snapdeal, Flipkart, gather a lot of data and then design product around what the consumer is actually wanting, what the consumer is searching for,
Absolutely. So
which is what has led to their success as well. Not only branding, but also kind of, dwelling into this data,
yeah,
deep diving into it.
because
And
I still remember I used to be handling Philips audio at that point of time when the boat entered into the market. So uh, see what I've seen is both Flipkart and Amazon people, they give inputs to us like, this is what is happening,
Yeah.
this is the trend which is going to come, this is the search keywords which is happening, so why don't you look at this. So being an multinational company, the decision making for be it Philips,
product,
Sony
yeah.
or
The
JBL,
product decision making
yes,
takes
so
a lot of time.
it takes a lot of time. Like even if we decide something on it, it'll take another 6 to 8 months to bring it. So
Yeah.
by
By that time, the market will already be
correct,
disrupted by
So
these D2C brands.
correct. So that is where I think they had an edge always, because the decision making was always fast. So
Much faster.
yeah, so that is what I felt the difference. So, but that being on one side, I think the marketing or the how calculated they were in terms of their marketing, branding, etc. on e-commerce played a major role. I think for
Of course, I mean, see, I mean, it's a culmination of a lot of things. But at the end of the day, the core is to build a brand. Without building a brand, if you just simply start marketing
Yeah.
or probably performance marketing on a platform, it might not end up. You might not end up getting the best results. So your roots need to be really strong. Once you set the base, then it's just a matter of firing and then killing it in the market.
So, as per your experience for any D2C brand owner, so if anybody starting a new brand with an capital of 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs maybe, like, can you break down like your advice to them, like where do they start first, like whether it is Amazon, whether it is Flipkart, whether it is D2C, or start all together? How do you split your what you say spend?
I mean,
manage
5 to
it?
10 lakhs rupees. I mean, depending on what kind of category you are wanting to dwell into. Of course, it's not enough money for a top line heavy category
Yeah.
like a consumer electronics. Let's say if you're starting off a fashion brand or whatever, like say it's a smaller brand, with whatever amount of money you end up starting, I think first, before even choosing a marketplace, first is first and foremost important thing is to kind of establish your values and what do you exactly stand for, and then you build your brand accordingly. Understand which consumer you want to target, and according to that, then you probably can choose either a Flipkart, Amazon, whether it's your category. And again, it's like a very broad question that you're kind of asking. So, uh, first, first and foremost, before going anywhere, I think it's important to establish your core values and what you stand for and what your customer set is. And every brand out there and as every successful brand out there, who is being able to capture the consumer's interest or is being able to even do fairly decent volumes to make a profit out there, has first focused on building its own brand and ensuring that customers are lured in by that brand or are interested in that product or a brand that the company has to offer. I think that foundation is the most important thing. Rest will follow. I think most of the e-commerce companies, both be it in quick commerce or regular e-commerce, are fairly established to take any brand forward with the best intent possible. Because having worked with both the e-commerce companies, I think both of them have a lot of strength to pull off. If your brand values are very strong and you are very clear, I think both companies are very efficient to kind of kickstart or launch or make something really big. First, in-house, solve things in your own house, and then you figure out uh, how to start off. And then, of course, exclusivity, having an exclusive approach towards one platform will definitely give you a lot of advantage, because it's a symbiotic relationship between that e-commerce platform and the brand. It's a win-win. It ends up more or less, it ends up being a win-win for both the brand and the e-commerce channel. So because you end up getting exclusive resources also from the platform if you are only listed over there.
Understood.
Let's say if you're an Amazon Specials or you're a Flipkart exclusive brand. So um, I think any company or any person who ends up starting thinking with a in that perspective, to build and establish exclusivity route is definitely, I believe, is definitely the right way to go, especially if you're concerned on resources initially. And later on, probably you can figure out on how big or how fast you're scaling up, to figure out even if that particular platform is being able to satiate or kind of is being able to fulfill the kind of growth that you are aiming for. That's when you
Understood.
can expand.
Yeah, so this
But
is
like carpet bombing everywhere at one go might not work out with you if you are crunched on resources.
so this is at an upper level, I would say. Like when once we start on any, for example, let's take Amazon itself. So once we start listing on Amazon, see, what can you like give a step by step advice, like uh, how you should have your research done on the listing part, on how important is reviews and ratings, how you should plan for your advertisement, like how to budget it, or like I know maybe for initial few months it may not be profitable, but how do we plan it so advanced, or so what you say, with clarity, that at some point or at the end of 8 months or 8 9 months you make profit,
I
something
mean,
like
it's a playbook again. I mean, these are some things which can be which obviously even Amazon and Flipkart have their own teams to kind of handhold and guide. But since you've asked me, listings is something which is paramount. Of course, you have to ensure that it is as detailed as possible, because there's no touch and feel factor in the e-commerce segment, right? What ends up really working out for any brand is that if you make the things most descriptive um, and at the same time a little concise and sharp focus and sharp communicate to the customer that okay, this is what I have to offer. So that, because if you have to think from by putting yourself in customer shoes, any customer who's coming and swiping and just opening up the app and searching for that product, uh, probably in the shortest period you need to kind of give him as much information as possible for him to make a purchase decision. So your listing has to be optimized for keywords as well, to ensure that what kind of keywords would actually make my consumer land up on my product, which is kind of again tied up to how much money is you are willing to spend on a search or a display. If you're starting up small, obviously search investing in search ads is sacrosanct,
understood.
because the consumer journey, it kind of begins with searching on the platform.
Understood.
Display obviously ends up being very cost intensive. So depending upon what products you are selling, at least in the consumer.
I'll just stop you there.
Huh.
For audience's understanding, can you just give a brief about what is search ads and what is display ads?
Oh, okay. So very simple. Search ads are those form of ads wherein you can amplify your product. Let's say an audience comes and searches for a keyword related to your product. Let's say if you're selling a bar of soap, and you end up searching soap for bath or soap. Uh, so to amplify your search ads, if you will see once you go on Amazon, or a Flipkart, you will see multiple listings of soap bars coming over there. So investing in search ad would mean that your listing ends up coming at the
Top
topmost
of the search.
or as high as possible, depending upon the investments that you're putting in, and also depending upon the number of keywords that you are bidding for on the platform. So majorly search ads is to do with a customer coming, searching, and
End up
you
buying.
ensuring that your product comes on top.
Yep.
A display ad is as simple as you can, if I compare it to an offline, a hoarding or a boarding. On a Amazon platform, if you end up going, or a Flipkart platform, you end up opening the app, you see a lot of banners everywhere. Is homepage. Then you go to a particular category landing page, you see many banners over there. Purchasing those kind of properties wherein your product shows up is part of the display ads. So that's the primary difference between a search or a display. Display, obviously, since it's a hoarding on, and it's giving you millions of impressions at one go,
One go.
it ends up becoming very expensive. It is always calculated at. Should I dwell into CPM and CPC? I think that will be too technical for the audience.
Yeah. But I would say in simple terms, the display ads makes the upper funnel wherein the awareness and intent gets created with
display
the display.
ads is for top
Correct.
funnel, and
And
search
the
is for mid and maybe low funnel.
Low funnel
So-
where the conversion happens.
Yeah, but to be honest, I'll tell you, this is, I mean, of course, this is like a playbook, and everybody ends up saying display is only for top funnel. I still beg to differ, because there are a lot of means through which even I would categorize search as a top funnel, depending upon what category you're dealing into.
Mm-hmm.
An FMCG category would have a vast array of brands, in vast array of subcategories. I think in that scheme of things, a search ad also becomes a top funnel.
Top funnel.
activity. But let's say a consumer specific brand like a Samsung or a Philips or a OnePlus, for that, search ends up becoming a mid funnel or an end funnel activity. But for other tertiary categories or maybe different categories, I think search also plays as a top funnel activity. This is what my
And for
thought
let's split this between a entry brand, already established brand, and a premium brand. Like, how do you have any idea, like, or what do you suggest in terms of splitting this ad budget between display and so?
I mean, whenever you are, this is what has been advised, and this is the playbook that we have always followed. That when you are crunched on budgets,
Okay.
search always gives you a higher return on investment, because the highest possible intent audience is going to come via searches. So
Understood.
since it's a middle funnel or a lower funnel activity, it ends up resulting in conversions directly. Display activity is very, very top funnel built, top funnel led. So it is subject to the audience that you're probably targeting, or the kind of display ads that you want to run. In certain cases, display ad can also be considered as carpet bombing, where you're showcasing your product and building your brand awareness and what category, or probably informing the customer what you are all about. It may or may not lead to conversions. But if you're starting small, obviously search is sacrosanct. Probably you should spend maybe 70 to 80% in search and maybe 20% on display. This is again, if you are entry level kind of a brand.
Understood.
But let's say if you have the resources, of course, and you want to build the brand, building awareness is the most important thing, and you want to scale up. So there has to be a burn mode at the beginning of the journey to scale up quickly, wherein you probably do a lot of activities both off and on platform to ensure that people know about your brand.
Understood.
But for that, obviously, that comes with a fair good amount of investments as well. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, so being worked in the global companies like Samsung or Philips, how are they adapting to the e-commerce or this fast-paced industry like e-commerce? Because most of these brands own the distribution, right? They own the distribution, they own the pricing in offline. How are they adapting to the e-commerce?
Sorry, most of the brands own the distribution.
On the distribution in the sense they have a vast distribution partners in place.
Okay.
Like they own the pricing, they own what you say.
Well, would probably not agree 100% that they own the pricing because illegally it's not even allowed.
Yeah. But
Of course, I mean, uh, brands. I think with time, a lot of brands have matured and kind of adapted the e-commerce, adapted themselves into the e-commerce ecosystem, and they've understood that it's a necessary channel and it's a very important channel to be a part of. Um I think Samsung plays it out really beautifully, especially in the smartphone segment. I think there are few categories which are still at a nascent stage to really have a bigger game or a bigger play in online. But I think smartphones, televisions, these few big categories, refrigerators. Um, I think these companies play it out really beautifully. Uh, they follow a very strict approach of a different model, different channel strategy, wherein there is no conflict between offline and online.
okay.
The specific models for online, specific models for offline, and and they try to kind of move ahead in their larger scheme of things along with all the channels together and try to maximize or milk every channel possible.
So is there any
So
cost difference? Like when you mentioned different product for different channel, I remember in Philips in the personal care category when they launched few exclusive trimmers for
yeah,
online, they got rid of all the fancy packaging and everything, and they put a simple brown packaging with a simple
so they,
tape.
they they probably saved on cost to bring the price down for the online customer. So online customer, having said that, yes, of course there are certain loyalists of each channel out there. The online customer is a deal hunter as well, right? So they would always want to get the best bang for the buck, and that's predominantly how uh, a lot of categories in the online industry work, especially in the electronic segment. So brands do adopt that strategy. Uh, for some categories, it could be that, let's say, n or n minus one strategy that Samsung plays out. In the end stage, when the product is newly launched, the focus is always there in the offline channel, which is a brick and mortar business, which requires higher margins as well, and it's easier to kind of push more expensive or high SP item in a offline channel because of the touch and feel factor. Now, and obviously there is a not only a touch and feel factor but also a personal factor involved with all the on-ground staff who's out there to kind of pitch the products to the customer. So conversion becomes easier. So I think in the end cycle, a lot of companies try to end up making profits over there. And once the product becomes end of life, then they try to kind of mark down the prices and
Okay.
leverage and maximize the volumes in the later half of the stage in online segment. That's mostly how the bigger
Brands.
in the smartphone industries work.
So
Um,
online platforms are good for liquidations. Like
it's not now. I mean, probably maybe 7 6 years back, it used to be a liquidation strategy.
mm,
Now it is a strategy. It's a core strategy. Like
okay.
products are being developed with the mindset that okay, these. And in fact, as and when we keep on moving ahead, uh, the life cycle of a smartphone, actual life cycle, like the kind of components that are being put in right now, are so powerful that it can easily last you for 3 4 years. Although people keep changing it with every 1 year or 2 years or 3 years max,
Mm-hmm.
but a smartphone can last you for a longer period of time. So even in a, let's say, in the flagship segment, smartphones are so powerful that they can even last you for beyond that. They could be, and with the kind of security or software upgrades being given by these brands, 6 7 6 years 7 years, it becomes even easier for them to ensure that even after a year or uh, year and a half, when the product does become end of life, it still has a lot of a very big value proposition. So, and having earned those profits in the first half segment, it's easier for them to kind of play out their
Yeah.
P&L to ensure that they give that value for money for customers. So that's how the biggest brands like an Apple or a Samsung would be working in the industry.
And
But for a brand like what you have mentioned, like personal care brand, certain strategies could be deliberately taken where products are designed, or certain costs are being brought down by probably cutting corners in few non-essential categories, like let's say a box packaging could be little of a lower grade, because what's important is what's inside the box, not the
understood.
box.
Correct.
So as long as the customer is educated enough to understand, okay, he's getting the best proposition out there for the price that they are paying, I think you cut online in that case.
Understood. And like at the end of the session, I would ask like how AI is impacting the e-commerce, both for a customer as well as for a brand.
So having worked very closely with Amazon in the last maybe couple of years, I can see that AI is taking uh, both from a category perspective and a brand or a seller perspective as well. Category is taken up or probably being implemented in every section.
Okay.
Now, looking from a category perspective, I know for a fact that now even internal merchandising teams of Amazon are relying upon AI to build creatives.
Okay.
It's starting at that level. And al- from a customer perspective, Amazon's AI agent Rufus is getting enabled everywhere, and you can just probably have a small chat about any product
Product.
that you are looking for. Um, FAQs are no longer static FAQs. They could be dynamic, where the customer can interact with Rufus and Rufus will reply back to you. I think similar projects are being taken up by Flipkart also, if I'm not wrong. It's in the pipeline.
How is it going to impact the brands, or like should I invest more on?
It's very simple. Like I mentioned earlier, offline does have a touch and feel factor involved to it. Over here, there is nobody to really interact to.
Interact.
Now, we do have an agent who we can interact with, and they can answer our questions in a more dynamic way. I think this is only going to get better with time.
Understood.
I think brands can kind of feed in information, certain amount of information, or even this AI can kind of draw the information from bigger, larger search modules, engines like Yahoo, Google, whatever, and kind of understand what kind of answers that can be given about the product if a customer is really curious or inquisitive to know uh, certain aspects which might have been left out in the listing section or whatever. It's just to educate the customer and only will lead to higher conversions later on. Then I believe that certain AI capabilities are being developed in the vendor central also, wherein probably the person who's handling the account is able to use AI to kind of further deep dive into
Analytics.
yeah. It's sort of like a few brands have access to Amazon Pie tool. I think you probably would have made a session earlier. I'm not really sure. I think you have tried to educate.
I just
certain
mentioned
audience.
about Pi earlier,
Yeah.
like how to use
So
Pi.
that even that tool is kind of getting developed as in when we keep on
Understood.
proceeding. So I think it's only going to, they keep on changing it, they keep on developing things so that the brands can get as many insights as possible to help them or to make the whole ecosystem conducive to grow the business for them.
Understood.
So I think yes, AI is an important part, or a very important has a very important part in everyone's life nowadays. And similarly, it's just kind of being developed in every segment, every industry possible.
Understood.
So yeah,
And
fair bit of.
finally, how is it affecting the whole smartphone industry right now? Being the RAM being what do you say, expensive.
Oh, memory crisis, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, of course, uh, there is a memory crisis which has been created by the whole AI industry, the AI industry, including OpenAI and Meta and Google, who already ordered um, most of the, or probably booked the most of the memory in year in advance or 2 years in advance, has led to memory shortage in the market, which has kind of spiked up the memory prices a lot.
Okay.
Which in turn is already kind of, it's pretty much out in the open now. Most of the smartphone brands have already started increasing the price. To start off with, the price increase has happened across the board from the start to the middle till the flagship segment. and the price increases anyway. It's varying anywhere between 15 to 20% at least
Okay.
across the board, which is like a huge jump. And of course, this year is going to be probably a little tricky for all the smartphone brands across the board. And for customers, I think probably they might not be able to get the best bang for the buck, which they probably were getting last year
Earlier.
or even before that. So I think this is here to stay, maybe for the next couple of years or so. And the customer or the consumer might take some time. I think they've already started kind of adopting to the whole scenario of this memory crisis, and they've understood that, okay, because the price increases happen across the board across all brands. So now there is a benchmark set for what you can get at what price. So of course, smartphones are going to be expensive. Laptops are going to be expensive. Any device that has to do anything with memory is going to be much more expensive this year.
Understood. So I would like to wind up this session with a rapid fire. Okay.
Okay.
Just go with your instinct. Okay. Don't think too much.
Okay.
Amazon or Flipkart for scaling fast?
Oh, both. I think I've been very, very clear about this. I think both of them have their advantages, and I personally have worked on both the platforms to scale up really fast.
And which one is best for building brand?
Building a brand, again, both. Why? Because building brand is not dependent upon Amazon or Flipkart. Building brand has to be in-house.
In-house. Ads or organic?
Organic.
Okay. Pricing or positioning?
Positioning.
Reviews or content?
Content.
Biggest myth about e-commerce?
Biggest myth about e-commerce. I think price-led.
Okay.
Yeah.
One mistake most sellers make or brands make?
One mistake that both sellers make or the brand make. They don't focus, sellers or brand. Probably a lot of brands do not focus on keeping the consistency live in maintaining their brand value, or probably in investing enough money in kind of maintaining their brand and their ideologies. They keep on changing, pivoting a lot.
Okay.
A lot of brands do that.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it from our side. So this was one of the most practical sessions, I would say. Like we at Backbone are trying to bring not just theory, but practical knowledge from the people who are working in this industry, in this e-commerce industry. If you're a marketer, a brand owner who wants to learn more about e-commerce, or if you found this session valuable, do follow us. That will be an encouragement for us to bring more people like this to the show and give more content to you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Vedant, for joining us.
Thanks, Vineeth. Yeah. Pleasure.